Although our name is Lucy's Retired Surfers Bar and Restaurant, there's nothing tired or retired about anything we do. Meet Me at Lucy's has been our slogan and battle cry for nearly 3 decades in New Orleans. Located in the heart of the Warehouse District, Lucy's has truly been the destination spot for nearly every occasion. Whether it's happy hour after work, before and after Saints and Pelicans games, or just a delicious bite to eat at all hours, Lucy's is the perfect place to meet up, hang out, and unwind for a great time. And while you're there, you should try one of our signature surfing cocktails, like the Shark Attack or Blue Whale. And for the truly courageous, our famous Scorpion Tequila Shot. Remember, Meet Me at Lucy's is our slogan, but don't forget to bring your favorite pooch, because our lifeguard chair is always open.
The owners of the Delachaise Wine Bar on St. Charles Avenue have opened up their newest creation uptown on Maple Street called Chez Delachaise, a new local wine bistro featuring a larger menu of small and large plates, a brighter atmosphere, and full table service. Additionally, patrons can enjoy a large patio out front as well as an extensive wine list offering selections from around the world. It's Chez Delachaise, 7708 Maple Street between Carrollton and Broadway.
So here's the bottom line. Well, it's funny that you say that. Let me tell you. Good evening, and welcome to Primetime Sports. I really hope everyone enjoyed, their great Labor Day weekend, and what a great football weekend we just had. Before we get into that, before we start, I must tell you, I come into this show with a very heavy heart. One of my closest friends in the world took his own life on Sunday, and he was a guy that I love very deeply, good friend, and it's a third dear friend that's actually committed suicide in the last 4 months. So I just tell you, if you're feeling helpless, you're feeling down, you feel there's nowhere to go, please know that you're loved. You're loved by people out there. Make that call to the people who love you and let them talk you through it. So it's not worth it because a lot of people are hurting. Hey, now on to college football. Now let's get excited because, wow, what an opening weekend that was we just had. Sunday, Texas A&M, UCLA. Can you believe this? To me, it's the greatest comeback ever in sports, really. I know there was a 35-point comeback 10 years ago at Michigan State, but this was 44-10 with 2 minutes left in the third quarter. Texas A&M blew that lead. UCLA won 45-44. How about last night? Tennessee's down the whole time. 2 overtimes. Georgia Tech elects to go for 2 to win it instead of kicking. They don't make it. Tennessee wins a thriller 42-41. Reminiscent of what happened with UL Lafayette. And they played Southeastern. Southeastern went for 2 to win it. They go 2 the other way. That's 51-48. And Thursday night, Nichols surprised McNeese. That's another one, 37-34, the last field goal. Tulane, by the way, very impressive, throttling Grambling in week 1 with Jonathan Banks quarterbacking. And LSU, with several missing starters, throttled BYU 27-0, only 97 yards allowed. JT Martinez last night, Diamondbacks became only the 18th Major League Baseball player to hit 4 home runs in a game. Congratulations to him. That's more uncommon than a perfect game. Hey, by the way, what a great show we have for you. Alvin Gentry, the head coach of the Pelicans, Mike Triplett, Fred LeBlanc from Cowboy Mouth, and Scott Craig. Coming up next, right here on Primetime Sports.
The love of my life is a shady lady, turned me up just to bring me down. Used to be calm, but now she's crazy, I don't mind. She's not the love of my life anymore. Yup. Ha ha. I like this guitar.
Welcome back to Primetime Sports. I'm having fun with my next guest. Of course, that was Fred LeBlanc. He once said, if the Clash and the Neville Brothers had a baby, you'd have Cowboy Mouth. And that's Fred LeBlanc, is the lead singer, of course, of Cowboy Mouth. He's going to be on later in the show. Also, the chef and owner of Katie's Restaurant is going to be here. I told you, this is sports and entertainment. And for all your Saints news, who's better than Mike Triplett, ESPN beat writer for the Saints, and he has been doing this for a long time. But my first guest, very special guest. I've had his boss on a couple times, once recently in June. Of course, that's Dell Dempsey, general manager of the Pelicans. But here is the head coach. His name is Alvin Gentry, and he has a 35-year history in coaching. We'll get to that in a second. But welcome, Coach.
How you doing? Good to see you,
Good
Scott.
to see you, man.
All right, great.
I'm going to tell you a couple things. The first time I met you, it was very brief, but you were an assistant coach at Miami, and this wasn't your first coaching stop in the NBA. I think you were at San Antonio before that. But you were playing the Hawks, and that was like in 93-ish, or maybe 94, but they happened to have a great team that year. They were the first or second seed. Yeah. Miami comes in. There's like a scrap during the game or at the end of the game, and last thing I know, everybody's running on the court, and you're holding somebody back, and I believe you ended up with a broken digit.
you had to remind me of that, Scott. Yeah, that's exactly what happened. There was a little incident at the end of the game, and all hell broke loose, and I was just thinking that because we had won, we were up in the series actually, and so I tried to grab Grant Long so that he wouldn't throw a punch so he wouldn't be suspended, and he had no idea who was grabbing him, so the next thing I know that I was going over his shoulder. And
well, that's the picture. I don't know if you saw this. The picture in the Atlanta paper the next day is you flipped in the air. You were upside down in midair. I was like,
my son have reminded me of that many a times by sending me that picture every time I start to get a little full of myself.
Oh, there you go. So you know what I'm talking about. All right. Some things you probably don't know about Alvin Gentry. He happens to be the first cousin of what I've always said, it's not because you're on the show, is one of the top 5 players I've ever seen in basketball. David Thompson. You grew up in Shelby, which I know a lot of folks in Shelby. Obviously, David played at NC State, won the national title, and breaking UCLA's long run. But talk about that relationship.
Well, it was great. We grew up together in a little small town, Shelby, North Carolina. Sure. As a matter of fact, I tell everyone that we made our own court. We dug out an area, we packed the dirt in, and then we put water there, and then we packed it in even more so that we could dribble the basketball. But he's a tremendous player. I don't think any, the younger guys who didn't get to see him play really just kind of know about him, but hadn't really seen him perform. I told him this is a guy that got 73 points on 38 shots in the NBA.
That's amazing, isn't it? 50, I remember the night.
53 at halftime.
Right.
Yeah, there were 7,000 people in the arena. I've talked to 40,000 that was there, though.
Right, of course. It's like the Tom Dempsey kick here in New Orleans. There's like 2 million in an 80,000 stadium. But the funny thing, what was the quote everybody said? He could jump so high, he could go up.
He could put a quarter on the backboard and take it off and leave change.
Leave change. Yeah. There it is. I thought it was $1 leave change, but you got it. All right. The other connection we have, I just got off the phone with somebody today who, when he retired as the head coach at Georgia Tech, of course, his name is Bobby Cremins. And for those of you younger folks, he coached Mark Price, Kenny Anderson, Dennis Scott, obviously Stephon Marbury.
I think he had 4 straight years of having the Rookie of the Year in the ACC.
I mean, how crazy is that?
That is unbelievable.
But my point is when he retired, in the court at Georgia Tech is named after him. He had tons of success, went to the Final Four, obviously, before bowing out to that great UNLV team. But he was on our show. We had a national show on Fox Sports Net, and I got to know him pretty well for 5 years. So I knew you went to Appalachian State and played for him, as well as Press Maravich, by the way. So I said, hey, tell me about Alvin. He goes, I wouldn't be the success I was without him because he, besides being a great player, he hosted a couple of some great players that came in. Bobby's from the Bronx, and he would always bring these players from New York. So he brought in Darryl Robinson,
a great player
from Brooklyn, and of course Mel Hubbard from the Bronx. So talk about this because Bobby couldn't stop talking about you and your the way you brought it.
He came in and he was very young when he got the job. 27 years old when he got the job. I was already 20, almost 22, so it was not that big of an age gap.
Well, he called you a young man too. That's what I liked. I think y'all aren't that far apart.
Yeah, and so one of the things that he did, he said, I got these players coming in from New York. They've never been out of New York. He said, so
they go to Boone, North Carolina?
They go to Boone, North Carolina. And they were so excited driving back from the airport. I just remember, they were driving back. We were driving back to the campus from the airport. I think they flew into, I think it was Tennessee or maybe Charlotte or somewhere. But I was driving back and they was like, oh my God, look, there's cows. There's cows.
Probably hadn't seen mountains either.
Yeah, they hadn't seen any of it. And neither one of those guys could drive. I taught both of those guys how to drive.
Did you
really?
Yeah,
really. They'd never driven a car,
That's hilarious.
So it was funny, but those guys ended up being great players. Bobby, the thing about Bobby is that he was a tremendous recruiter.
Yeah. Oh, God.
He really could sell ice to an Eskimo. He really could. But he got those guys and convinced them to come down there. And we went from being a really bad team to winning 17 games his first year.
Right.
And we were one.
Well, he's a winner, man.
We were a game away from going to the NCAA tournament, and we lost to a VMI team that ended up going to the Final Eight to beat the Bernie and Ernie team from Tennessee.
Right.
So, and then after that, obviously, he had a ton of success.
Well, you know how competitive this dude was. Even in his 50s, late 50s, when we were doing the show, I would have fun with him and say, hey, we beat your favorite team in the Sweet 16, meaning we, LSU, when they had Mark Price and Tom Hammonds, and they were highly ranked, and that's when LSU went to the Final. He goes, we beat Stanley, Chris Jackson, and Shaquille O'Neal, so quit talking.
I was going to tell you, they were going to bring up the
He brings that up for sure. By the way, he said you were already a player coach at that time, basically. He said you were you knew you were going to be a coach, and a great one at that. The other guy, real quick, because I want to get to the Pelicans. I know everybody wants to hear that. Pres Maravich, obviously my favorite player of all time because I grew up here in the 70s. His son, Pistol Pete, when he played for the Jazz. But Pres Maravich, you got him toward the end of his career.
Yeah, I did, and he was so far ahead of his time, it was unbelievable. We were doing things like all the stretching and the aerobics and all of that. We were doing that in 1972, 73. 73, 74, when everybody looked at us like we were, nuts, when we were warming up. But just a great guy. Like I said, was so far ahead of his time. We didn't have enough talent there to be successful, but I just remember, I always wanted to play in the ACC, and I was being recruited by Clemson, and I thought, I want to go there. And then he came in and had a in-home visit, and all I knew is my mom said, come in here and sign this letter, boy.
Sign it now.
And that was it. That was it.
All right, well, I know people want to hear about the Pelicans. I got the first thing that just pops in my mind. You know, 2 years ago, literally maybe a little bit more, you were at Golden State, and you guys just won a title. You come to New Orleans, a franchise that had some success, but they had some injury issues. And then you happen to take over the year that they had more injuries than any team in NBA history do. Sometimes, let's be honest with me, do you feel snake bit at times?
I think everything happens for a reason, and so I never look at the negative side of it. I've always been a guy where the glass has been more than half full.
Same here.
I've been very successful at being that way, and I just thought that we'll find a way, some kind of way to get through this. I still believe that. I still believe that we're going to have a great team here, and it's going to be a great franchise, and we're going to have a great run. And obviously adding DeMarcus to our mix and Rondo and guys like that, I really feel good about our chances. And obviously we lost Solomon Hill to injuries, but I'm really excited about getting started, and I think that the guys are really excited about getting started.
I have to go there then before I get to the new players. I mean, you hate to talk about what's not there, but how do you plan on filling that void? Solomon Hill had the second most minutes on the team, and as you know, he's a dog on defense, and I mean dog in a positive way.
He is, and we're exploring some angles and avenues as to how we can fill that spot. We also feel very comfortable about some of the guys that we have on our team now, and we always say that if a man is down, then everybody has to step up just a little bit. Not one guy, but the whole team. So we'll miss Solomon because I thought he did a great job of defending his position.
I thought he didn't get enough credit for what he did on the floor, and I guess defenders don't always do.
Well, I didn't either, and I talked to a lot of the guys and a lot of the coaches about it. I thought that he should have been a guy that should have been talked about on the all-defensive team,
right.
And it didn't happen. But we'll find a way to do that. And like I said, we're into a situation where we don't worry about what we don't have, and we love Solomon and we will miss him, but we have to fill that void, and we'll find a way to do it.
I text Dell actually right after it happened. He's been on the show a couple times, Dell Dempson, and he said the same thing. Because I was like, I almost feel bad. I mean, it's like you're not playing with the full deck ever.
Yeah,
and he says can't complain, got to look forward, and I was very impressed because it came back immediately. And, I'd be like sulking, like, oh, my God, is this happening to us again?
I think you could do that, but I think in this business right here, no one feels sorry for you. So rather than have a pity party, I think what you have to do is that you have to say, how are we going to adjust? How are we going to fill that void? I like some of the players that we got. Obviously, Etuan Moore can move to that spot and do some good things, and I think he's probably come back. Just watching him in the preseason workouts.
Well, maybe put more free flowing, I guess, like you envisioned when you got here.
Exactly, and right. I think so. We've got two of the top three big guys in the league, probably.
Let's talk about this because before we get to Boogie and AD's chemistry, I want to. I want you to tell me how you envision this backcourt with Rondo and Holiday, and how important was it to get that signature back? People think that's a given that they come back, but when you're a free agent, you got to look out for yourself. But he came back, and you got Rondo. So how do you envision this backcourt?
I think it's going to be good. I think the thing that we're going to have is a very good defensive backcourt. You know, Drew Holiday is a tremendous defensive player. Rondo is a tremendous defensive player. I think what Rondo gives us is that he gives us that guy that can do a lot of things. But Drew, you know, Drew's been an all-star before.
Yes, he has.
And I think when you put those two guys together, you have two guys that's capable of being the primary ball handler. You have a guy in Rondo that have been the floor general for a team that won the NBA championship. So I look forward to seeing how those guys mesh together and the chemistry that's going to happen. But I'm really excited about that.
And it's going to be amazing how you see somebody's three-point shooting go up when you have guys that can take pressure off of them. You have Boogie and AD. Obviously now Rondo is going to penetrate. So all of a sudden Etuan Moore is going to be more open, instant grits. But let's talk about Boogie and AD. You have to smile. You have two of the top 15 players in the NBA. When they were on the court together, it was a little bit of adjustment in the beginning, but then you saw that glimpse when they went like 8-3, I believe, over that stretch of what could be, right?
Oh, I think so too. And both of those guys are willing passers. Both of them can play out on the floor, can play inside. You know, he played 19 games with us, and their average stayed about what it was before they became a duo together. So I really think that that's not going to be a problem. Both of those guys are very capable of playing inside or outside, and I think you're going to see that. And I think that you'll see the three-point shooting improve with AD. Boogie shot almost 37% for us, and I think his will even go up even more.
What makes Boogie special as a player?
I think he's a very skilled guy for a player that size, really good at moving his feet, a tremendous passer, and a big-time competitor. You know, I think that sometimes every people get confused as to you know, the emotional outburst that he has. A lot of that has to deal with just being a competitive guy, and you know, I think you'll see him have a really great year on the floor, and I think you'll see him from an emotional standpoint mature even more.
And as we close, Anthony Davis and Boogie's friendship, how does that help them on the court? Obviously, are we going to name this team Wildcats? You've got Darius Miller now, Rajon Rondo, Boogie Cousins, and Anthony Davis. But those two.
Listen, I told Cal we'll take anybody that he wants to send us, because one thing about it, you know, there's a lot of them spread it out the NBA.
And that is not them playing together. None of these players played together except for Darius and AD.
Exactly.
But that was a reunion thing. But you do have a lot of Wildcats, and obviously they have a lot of success, so that breeds success.
It does breed success, and I think those guys, AD and Boogie, has a real special relationship. I think there's mutual respect there. I think both of those guys are in a position right now where they know that they want to have some success, and you know, and for us, you know, we want to aim at getting back to the playoffs. You know, it's been 3 years now, going on 3 years.
This is the year, Coach. They're going to do it. I know it. I
feel good about it, and if we can just stay healthy, knock on wood. AD played 75 games last year, the most he's played since his rookie year.
Yes.
And I think Cousins is a guy that has always been healthy and played. So Drew Holiday, I think, is going to, you know, with everything that he went through last year, I tell everyone, you got to almost give him a pass for what he went through last year.
Yes, you do. I mean, come on.
And to be able to come back and play at the level that he did, I think is unbelievable. But I think we'll get a great Drew Holiday. And Rondo has always been a guy that I admired because I think he's a great floor general. And that's really kind of what we needed here.
One thing people don't remember, the year before when he came off the injury and played, and he got 29 minutes or more, he averaged 23.5 points, 8.5 assists, and 6 boards. So when he's healthy and right, he's good.
He's great.
Hey, we have a tradition here to sign the ball, but first, hey, I know you work hard, but you got to eat sometime. Shays de la Shays uptown.
Yes.
I know you're an in-town guy.
I love this guy. I love
nice.
This place.
So anyway, we see Karl Malone, the mailman. I'm not going to make you sign a football because you're basketball. There's Del, sign me somewhere up in the front so I can read it like in 20 years where I'm like, who is this? So anyway, that is Alvin Gentry. Get excited about your Pelicans. I know it's Saints football season, but come on. Pelicans start practice literally in about 2-3 weeks, and then the NBA season starts a week earlier than normal, so it's going to be fun. I want to thank Alvin Gentry, but coming up next, it's all the Saints talk you need. His name, Mike Triplett, ESPN beat writer for the New Orleans Saints. And coming up later, we're going to have Fred LeBlanc from Cowboy Mouth along with Scott Craig, who they're doing a little special project together. Coming up next on Primetime Sports.
I believe in the spirit of rock and roll and the eternal strength of the immortal soul. Cause sometimes everybody's gotta let it go. I believe in the power of love. I believe that we're never really all alone. There's so much more than anything we're shown. New Orleans is always gonna be my home. I believe in the power of love. I believe.
That was a lot of fun with Alvin Gentry, and hopefully we can get him on again in the future. But hey, by the way, that was once again the guy you're going to see in just a few minutes. That is Fred LeBlanc playing the guitar with cowboy mouth. You know he's the drummer and lead man, but he also plays guitar as well. But we're going to talk what you love the most, and that is, of course, the New Orleans Saints here in New Orleans. And I have the beat writer for ESPN.com, obviously, formerly of the Times-Picayune, NOLA.com. He switched a few years ago to ESPN. You see his face on TV now. He's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. His name is Mike Triplett, and he's a proud Iowa Hawkeye.
Oh, yeah.
And oh, by the way,
yeah,
people thought that might be a tough matchup with Wyoming. They put that to sleep quickly, and good win for your Hawkeyes.
We might, if the Wyoming quarterback winds up slipping to the Saints in the draft next year, maybe instead of being the number one pick after that game. We can go over that scouting report.
A possible future Drew Brees replacement. Speaking of Drew Brees, I saw him at the game this weekend. He was up in the booth with us. Same old with Drew. We should expect the same, or is this guy ever going to grow old like most people in their late 30s do?
In theory, that should happen at some point, right? But I see no signs of. There were a couple years there in 14 and 15 where he didn't have his best years, and part of it was due to nagging injuries, and I guess that's a concern. But, man, last year he was as good as he's been in 5 years. I see no reason why he can't continue at that pace. And then you got the model of Tom Brady, who's 2 years older than Drew.
Right.
And he certainly hasn't slowed down.
Yeah.
So there is no rule that says he's going to hit a wall.
There used to be a rule, but apparently there isn't anymore. By the way, the one down year he had still was huge in stats. And by the way, he had a torn rotator cuff and plantar fascia, so it takes a couple injuries to keep this guy down. How about the running group he's got? Because we've had some good ones in the past here in New Orleans. This might be as special as it gets, especially with the emergence of Kamara. But the first guy I want to talk to is the new guy, free agent, one of the greatest running backs in the history of the NFL. Yeah. And he happens to be going back home, at least his pro home, to play his first game on a Monday night. Does it get any better than this? And talk about it.
It's got to be the most dramatic game on the Saints schedule, and maybe one of the most compelling storylines in the whole NFL schedule, with Adrian Peterson playing at Minnesota, because he is such a curiosity to me. I know people, speaking of ageless people, he's 32.
Yeah.
And, I see things on Twitter all the time. This guy doesn't realize he's done or whatever. There's no evidence he's done.
Right.
I mean, he led the NFL in rushing 2 years ago.
2 years ago.
And then last year he missed 13 games with sort of a minor knee injury. He's been healthy since December. So he hasn't missed a practice. He's not like missing time with nagging injuries this summer. So I'm really curious. Now, the biggest strike against him is that other teams didn't line up to sign him, and he signed with the Saints for a relatively cheap deal. But that's just added to his motivation. So I'm really curious. I don't expect a 1,000-yard season from him because, first of all, he's on the Saints. They don't run the ball that much. I don't think they're changing their identity overnight. He's got to split time with Ingram and Kamara. But I think we're still going to see him thrive in doses, and he's not going to be facing the 8 and 9 man fronts that he's faced.
Exactly. I mean, this guy's going to have some lanes that he didn't have in Minnesota. But the other thing that's funny, I'm reading some fantasy magazines. This is the week of drafts. And when a guy's 29, they say, oh, still young at 29. And then the next page I'm reading, he's 30. He's over the hill. It's like, dude, some people are modern medical marvels. And Adrian
he's one
Peterson,
of them.
when you see him, be honest with me. I was at the first OTA, first of everything this summer. When you see him, you're a little bit shocked at the size and specimen that this guy really is.
He really almost looks like a defensive end or outside linebacker with his size. And it does make me wonder, if everyone says he's one of the all-time great running backs and his power is just maybe more 6'2", 225-pounders should play running back, I
mean, honestly.
But, usually when guys are that big, they're probably putting him on the edge as a pass rusher. And in today's NFL, edge rushers make more money than running backs. But he's one of the exceptions.
True that, right? There was a time when it was running backs and quarterbacks and edge rushers were like, oh, yeah, we'll pay them a little bit. Yeah, but now you know how valuable they are. Speaking of edge rushers, the defense. I mean, listen, that's been the bane of the Saints' existence for 4 of the past 5 years. We all know the stats, among the worst in the league, if not the worst. I hate to use this. It's only preseason, but we haven't seen this kind of fly-to-the-ball activity in a long time here in New Orleans. Is this a mirage, or please tell us it's real? What is it with the Saints defense, and especially that linebacking core that just seem to be everywhere?
Well, somewhere in between. They're not going to. Don't believe they're going to come shut out opponents. 3 games in a row with the starting defense. There's some definite reasons for optimism. I think starting with A.J. Klein as the sort of quarterback of the defense, he really seems like a big addition for them. And they've been trying to find that role for years now. This will be like their 4th in 4 years. He'll move from the strong side to the mic, but he'll be the guy with the signal call on their helmet. He can fly around. He knows what he's doing out there. He is the big difference maker. And really the whole linebacking core with Manti Te'o and Alex Anzalone, that looks improved. I think you still got question marks everywhere else, though. The secondary could be better,
right?
But I think your number one cornerback is Marshawn Lattimore,
right?
Who's
Rookie.
Played 1 full year of college football. He's 21 years old and was limited during the preseason. You're counting
it's a huge question mark.
Yeah, you're counting on P.J. Williams, who has won a starting job for the 2nd year in a row because he's talented, but he has 2 NFL games of experience. And the pass rushers, you lost Nick Fairley. So you're counting on a Sheldon Rankins breakout, which I think can happen. You're hoping Alex Okafor and Haole Kakaha will be better than what they had last year, but it's a question mark. So we'll find out when they start facing real teams and playing 60 full minutes, but there's definitely reason for cautious optimism.
Well, let me say this, because I remember I had you on before OTAs, and we were just discussing the Saints cannot afford injuries, right?
Yeah.
That's been the mantra, and they've had plenty of them over the years, like most NFL teams do. However, you have 3 key guys that aren't starting the season. Delvin Breaux being one, arguably one of the best defenders on the team. Teron Armstead, he's out for who knows how long. He's not on the PUP list, so that's a good sign. So it's probably less than 6 games. And, of course, Nick Fairley. And then also you have a very rusty Max Unger.
Yeah.
So we've said there's no room for error or no margin for error. And now you have 4 guys, 3 that aren't going to be there on opening day and probably for a long time.
It shaped my season predictions, and I was almost surprised how much flack I got from the fan base when I picked him to go 8-8 at the last week. How could you do this? You're giving up on the season already. It would be their best season in 4 years, but I picked him to go 9-7 back when the schedule first came out, and since then they've lost those 3 guys that you're talking about. How can you not knock them a game for that? But I think here's the Saints' window. I think we know they could go 7-9 again because we've seen it all too often.
Yeah, we have.
But I also think it's between 7 and 11 wins. If they go 11-5, and the team I keep bringing up is the Falcons, they can have the number 1 offense in the NFL, and they can have some young guys emerge on defense like the Falcons did with 2 rookie starters last year, get hot at the right time, go 11-5. I mean, that ceiling exists for the Saints, but to predict it is tough. It's possible. I give them sort of a 7 to 11 win window.
And they have to have the breaks in those games. And they were 4 plays away from having 11 wins last year. Your record is what you say you are, who you are. But they had some chances and they didn't get it done. Injuries will be key. But let's talk about some of these surprise cuts. A couple veterans, 2 recent, that kind of surprised me. And Grant, I'm a fan right now too because I haven't been around. I was on the road all weekend. I had some tragedy a couple days ago, so I haven't looked at Saints stuff since Wednesday, except for the cuts. So I saw Michael Maudie went down, and then I'm going to talk about some younger guys later, but Michael Maudie and then John Kuhn and Darryl Tapp a couple days ago, and those really surprised me too, particularly Kuhn. So what is the situation with these guys?
I thought Kuhn would be back already. They put Delvin Breaux on IR last night and brought back Bryce Harris to give him some offensive line depth. I thought that move would be Kuhn. Yeah, because they don't have a fullback on the roster right now.
Right.
And they only have 3 tight ends. So, and a source told me that Kuhn probably will be back. So I bet he's back on game day. Otherwise, Adrian Peterson's going to be running without a fullback.
I like he said a source.
Yeah.
Okay, a source. By the way, you have the best sources, there's no doubt about it, in New Orleans. But by the way, for those of you who are a casual football fan, he is a key player. I have a ton of Packer friends in Wisconsin. They love this guy. Many years with the Packers. And now with the Saints, he's been a key element to this team, I thought. So he will be back, most likely.
I can't imagine them only going with 3 tight ends and no fullback. They might have a specific game here or there where they don't use a fullback. They've done that before.
Right.
But, they plan to run the ball a lot. I have a feeling Kuhn is going to be part of this team for at least most of this year.
Two fan favorites. One from New Orleans, Arthur Millette, cornerback. He's just sculpted. The guy can play. He's physical. And then Adam Big Hill won everybody's heart. They both were cuts I think people were wanting to see. But it's a numbers game, and they got caught up in it. Doesn't mean they're not good football players, but they have any future with the Saints.
Of course, they both made it back to the practice squad. But, when you make those decisions, a lot of time are these guys going to be active on game days? And Millette was probably the 6th corner.
Sure.
Big Hill was probably the 6th linebacker. And they're not their core special teams standout players that are going to be on all their starting special teams units. So you make that decision, or you make the decision, will these guys get taken away from us if we expose them to the waiver wire? And they made an educated guess that they wouldn't, and they got them both back. So that's a good sign. But those are two guys who could be candidates for promotion if injuries come up, no doubt about it.
And Mike Triplett is one of only 6 people that have been a guest on here at least 3 times. So you still haven't been to Shays de la Shays, so it looks like you're going to add them all together and have one big dinner with your lovely wife, a Homa girl, right?
Yes, absolutely.
And by the way, I have to say, I was very sad about Michael Marty. He's been a friend of the show. He was on literally after training camp starts, which is unusual. Saints don't usually let people have, but that Tuesday we were off. So that was sad.
He's another guy that should just be a phone call away when injuries happen, unless he gets a better offer somewhere else. He's not going to be far away from the Saints family, I don't think, for long.
Mike Triplett is truly one of the great gentlemen in this game, and we're lucky to have him in New Orleans. And I'm not saying that because he's sitting here. You know it. If you read it, you see him. And if you've ever met him, you know that for sure. I appreciate him. We'll have him on hopefully later in the season. But coming up next, the entertainment part. We've already had Alvin Gentry and Mike Triplett. Now we're going to have some fun with some musician and a restaurateur. We're going to start with the musician. His name is Fred LeBlanc, and his band is Cowboy Mouth. That is the name of the band. Coming up next, right here on Primetime Sports, Scott Craig from Katie's is coming on with him after that. We'll be back. Crescent City Steakhouse, a true neighborhood restaurant operated by the Vojkovic family since 1934, is the oldest steakhouse in the city of New Orleans. Serving only hand-cut, prime-aged, corn-fed beef for over 80 years, Crescent City Steakhouse has become a dining destination for both die-hard locals and adventurous travelers who seek traditional, timeless New Orleans cuisine. Crescent City Steakhouse, 1001 North Broad, on the corner of St. Philip, in the heart of New Orleans.
Rock and roll will never die. It's old New Orleans, my oh my. Come on, baby, let's go rock and roll at the city lane. All night, let's roll, let's rock and roll. Baby, do the rock and roll. At Mid-City Lane's the home of rock and roll.
Although our name is Lucy's Retired Surfers Bar and Restaurant, there's nothing tired or retired about anything we do. Meet Me at Lucy's has been our slogan and battle cry for nearly 3 decades in New Orleans. Located in the heart of the Warehouse District, Lucy's has truly been the destination spot for nearly every occasion. Whether it's happy hour after work, before and after Saints and Pelicans games, or just a delicious bite to eat at all hours, Lucy's is the perfect place to meet up, hang out, and unwind for a great time. And while you're there, you should try one of our signature surfing cocktails, like the Shark Attack or Blue Whale. And for the truly courageous, our famous Scorpion Tequila Shot. Remember, Meet Me at Lucy's is our slogan, but don't forget to bring your favorite pooch, because our lifeguard chair is always open. Welcome back. I told you the entertainment part of this show starts, and is it about to get entertaining? It's going to get high octane. When most people think of New Orleans music from afar and even close, you think of Louis Armstrong, maybe some Alan Toussaint, maybe some the more recent musicians like Wynton Marsalis, Branford. It keeps going on. But when I think of New Orleans music, I think of live performances, and there's none better than this band called Cowboy Mouth, the lead singer and drummer and every other instrument he plays on the side. His name is Fred LeBlanc. We've been trying to get him here for months, and he is finally here. My friend.
Yes!
Yes!
I'm here!
The name of the band is
Cowboy Month.
Cowboy Month. There you go. Fred, welcome.
Nice to meet you, and thank you for having me on the show.
And we actually met 3 decades ago.
We met 3 decades ago, but it was before yesterday. It's a little dicey up here.
It gets a little fuzzy.
A lot of penguins on the iceberg, you know what I'm saying?
But remember Murphy's and Fred's, and you play there with Dash Riprock quite often, and we had some good times.
And then we played there. Cowboy Mouth played there with Driving and Crying. You remember?
Driving and Crying, Kevin Kenny, Tim Nielsen.
Tim Nielsen, yeah, all those guys.
All right, let's talk.
Let's go.
Go. Dash Riprock, I mean, come on, that was where I first saw you, and I'm like, you replaced a friend of mine. We're not going to talk about him. He was kind of a boring drummer.
Oh, he was a good drummer. They just needed somebody flashier, and I fit better.
You fit that mold. But when you see a Dash Riprock or now Cowboy Mouth show for the last 27 years, you see a high-energy show. Yeah. Some might say maniacal. I say a guy that gets everybody into it, and that's what I love about you. Tell me about it.
Well, the thing about it is, as a performer, you know, I've always tried to be somebody who tried to kind of keep that childlike thing going, you know, because that's the energy. It's all about energy. It's all about enthusiasm. If you can tap into that either on stage or in your life, if you can remember, okay, tap into the enthusiasm, that's an energy that feeds on itself. And I've always brought that to Dash Riprock, and I brought that to Cowboy Mouth. And Dash Riprock was one of the few, it was a great band. It was a fun band. But every week when I was in that band, every single week, and I was in that band for 4 years, every single week at some point, I would say to myself, we could die. We could die because it was just so insane.
Yes.
The Cowboy Mouth has been a little bit more of a calmer experience off stage. On stage, it's a lot more nuts, and it's great. But, you know, we're still kicking a whole lot of booty. We just finished a tour this summer, and we were just on Guy Fieri's Family Roadshow, Guy's Family Roadshow.
Which is an offshoot of Diners, Drive-Ins,
and exactly.
Dives,
It just debuted last week, and it was great. Guy and I go way back. I mean, like 20 years and stuff.
Y'all are both pretty passionate about what you do.
You know, we're similar kind of energy, similar kind of vibes, and we just hit it off. And he was always very generous about bringing us food to our shows in the West Coast. And then when he got the opportunity to do the Food Network thing, he called me up and said, "Should I do this?" I was like, "Hell yeah, do it! What are you kidding me? Go!" And you know, it worked out for him. He was the first time he got a high-paying private gig. He calls me. He's like, "Fred, guess where I am?" It's like, "Where are you?" "Some rich guy's Learjet." It's like, "Awesome. What are you doing up there?" "I'm cooking food for him and his wife. He's paying me $250,000. It's like, woohoo!
Can you pick me up and slide out?
Exactly. It's not going to happen.
I'm going to give a sports analogy to what you do. Coaches, people say, "Oh, this guy can't really coach great, but he can recruit and he can motivate." Those are 3 things. But musicians, hey, if you want to play an instrument, you got to be pretty good at it. If you want to sing, you got to have a voice that pleases people.
Yeah.
But to me, you have to be a showman.
Yeah.
You have to make people want to come back to you. And honestly, I'm not saying this because you're sitting here. You do that better than any human I've ever been around.
Well,
for 20 years in Atlanta, I went to the shows every single year and look forward to it. And I bring big crowds. Since I've been back, I've seen you another 7 times, Jazz Fest, et cetera. But talk about that energy that you get. Even the stuffy crowds in a New York little restaurant involved. How do you do it?
Well, you just can't worry. You can't be afraid to walk the high wire. Cowboy Mouth thing is just so much bigger than just the people in the band. Everybody's in it together.
He can
it's
read.
Something that's, I know, it's an amazing.
But the little part is Fred LeBlanc, so that is your folk.
Fred LeBlanc. I like that. You know, that should be the big Fred LeBlanc. But
and here's what I'm talking about. This is like a fancy New York restaurant.
Oh, yeah.
And these people probably had no idea that they were going to be.
They didn't.
Jitty says going up and down.
Yeah, it was great, though. I mean, that's the whole thing, is the energy, the enthusiasm. It feeds on itself, and it just depends on where you put a lot of that. Me as a performer, I'm not afraid to walk a high wire without a net. I'm not afraid to look foolish, because at the end of the day, I'm cool with me. And, you know, I see that with a lot of performers. You can't worry too much about what people think about you, because that way you're going to cheat yourself out of a lot of fun, out of a lot
That's
of
the
living.
perfect way to say what you do, because I've never seen anybody leave a Cowboy Mouth concert and like, damn, I wish I hadn't come. It's not that way.
Yeah.
You make people happy about being at your shows.
You know, we had this fan recently who came up to us, you know, we were in Georgia or Alabama. He's like, "Man, I love you guys. Y'all are like a gospel tent revival without the religion." I was like, "That's perfect. I love that. That's great." You know?
Speaking of great quotes, I opened the show up when I teased you coming up, and I said something you said years ago.
What did I say?
About, you know, hey, describe Cowboy Mouth or me. Think of the Neville Brothers meets the Clash, and this bastard baby is
That would be
Cowboy.
us.
That would be us.
I always said that if the Clash and the Neville Brothers had a bastard son, it would be us. So.
And bastard's not a curse word in this sense.
No.
It is
like Jon Snow.
Right, in that sense. But
Exactly.
Explain that again.
Well, you know, we always took the best elements, you know, being New Orleanians, you kind of grow up musically with that whole feel and vibe. It's just in the air. You have it whether you play music or not. It's just a certain kind of funkiness, a slide to the way we are here. And, you know, but growing up also being fans of punk rock and 70s, you know, rock, I wanted to blend those elements and really create something that would be thoroughly inclusive in terms of it's anybody can like us. It's easy to like us. The songs are, even if you don't know the songs, you know, we had a producer one time that said, "Man, you guys play a lot of like nursery rhymes for adults." And I was like, "That's awesome."
That's awesome.
And so, you know, and it's just a matter of pulling people into the moment and getting themselves to kind of let loose, because no matter how nuts they go, they're not going to look as dumb as I do.
Right.
You know, they're not going to be, so just go nuts, you know.
Well, you know how New Orleans people love others to love us.
Yeah.
And I'm going to say this for those of you who haven't seen him outside New Orleans. He is the biggest ambassador for our great city of New Orleans. I've seen you at least 60 times in other places.
You know who I learned that from? I learned that from Bill Davis from Dash Rip Rock. He was actually when I joined Dash Rip Rock, you know, he was very, one of his main motivations was to bring a musical focus back to Louisiana. And I really thought that's unique. And then, you know, being that Cowboy Mouth was and is and forever will be from New Orleans, you know, I was really focused on trying to make that part of the thing of being from New Orleans and let people know how wonderful it is here before everybody kind of found out. Now they know it's great.
Secret's out.
It's kind of redundant, but you know,
out.
I still love New Orleans. I still love the town. I still love the vibe. I still love the people.
Well, we have a series of facial. Your face is the greatest part about you, because you can do so many, like all these different little things you got.
Look at that. Back when I had hair.
James Hetfield.
Nice.
From Metallica. And there you go. But this man looks
like I'm
into
taking
the
a poop.
shows. By the way,
man, I was skinny. Look at that.
I have to bring. Since I moved back to New Orleans, it has been out of control.
It's hard. It's difficult.
It's hard.
It's difficult.
I have to bring up something, because in 2 weeks the Saints' first home game is the Patriots, and that's an easy one, right? But you've got a big show that night, so it's a perfect thing. You play at 6 o'clock.
Yeah, I play at 6 o'clock.
Right after that, tell people House of Blues.
But no, it's just me solo. I'm doing me, Shannon McNally, Papa Grow, Irvin Mayfield, and Big Freedy. We're doing a benefit for Harvey victims at the House Blues. I start at 6 p.m.
That's awesome. And also the great New Year's Eve show that you do every single year.
Big night New Orleans. It's going to be fun. You'll have me back before then, so I can talk more about it.
That'd be perfect. And one last thing. As you're signing our tradition, I wanted you to talk about this children's book that you did. It's called Fred the New Orleans Drummer Boy. We got a picture of it here.
Fred the New Orleans Drummer Boy. It's available everywhere in New Orleans. You can also get it on the Cowboy Mouth website, cowboymouth.com. And it's been...
And there you are reading it to a girl.
Yeah, look at it.
She's a little
angel. Yes, and it's just been a blessing. Scott at River Road Press has been wonderful. And it's been a wonderful experience.
Well, our tradition is to sign the ball.
Right.
You got Big Bobby Hebert. Don't sign it that big. I need a little room for others. But yeah, I want to be able to read it a little bit.
I usually just sign my.
Do you like food and wine?
I love food and I love to wine.
Okay.
I do, Scott, I do.
Oh, man, come on. Why is it so long? Anyway, we're going to have you a nice gift certificate to Shays de la Shays, part of the de la Shays family right there on Maple Street between Carrollton and Broadway. Woo-hoo! But Fred's going to stay right here, because I'm bringing his buddy, who's on News with a Twist with him, and of course you know him from Katie's Restaurant. Woo! His name is Scott Craig. He's a sports icon in this town. You might not know that. We'll get into that next, right here on Prime Time.
Scott Alexander, he's got the primetime sports. Scott Alexander, he's got the primetime sports. Scott Alexander, hitting you where it hurts. Oh, you like that? Yeah, you do.
I told you we were going to have fun on this show. Does it get any better than what we just saw with Fred LeBlanc?
No!
No! But we're going to have a little more of him, but with his good buddy Scott Craig. They've been friends for many, many years. Scott Craig is the chef and owner of Katie's Midtown Restaurant. You know where it is, right there in the Mid-City, brah. Hey, right now, you're about to see a whole big table of pork and pigs. And we're making what I call a muffalata, but they say something different. He calls it a... Scott Craig, first of all.
It's a muffaletta.
Muffaletta.
But in New Orleans, we call it a muffalata.
Muffalata, brada.
Muffalata.
All right, let's start. First of all, I want to, before we get to, you see this food here. We're going to, tailgates are the way to go.
Yeah,
Obviously, everybody eats and tailgates and drinks, has a good time. This is something easy, but before we get to this and how to make one easily, let's talk about your love of sports in this town, because I first met you not because of the restaurant. I met you because you go to UNO games. You're a proud alum. You donate a lot to the school, but it's not just UNO. You're a huge supporter of the basketball program. We just had Alvin Gentry here. You love all the pro sports. Of course, everybody loves the Saints. You love the Pelicans. But what I love about you, Tulane, LSU,
Right.
you love them all. People say, oh, man, Scott, you can't root for both Tulane and LSU. You got to pick one. I'm like, no, I'm from New Orleans, and I like them all. And you do as well.
Well, I have a list. If UNO plays any of them, I root for UNO.
Right.
UNO's always
Yeah,
number one.
that's number one. You went there.
Especially basketball and baseball. Because you got Blake Dean, you got Coach Sless, dear friend of mine. I went to the football
The
game with
LSU
Coach
game
Sless.
with Coach Sless.
Went
By
to
the
the
way,
game
he
with
got a
Coach
7-year
Sless.
extension. Life's good for him.
It is good for him, but he deserves it.
Yeah, he does.
I could not get him to wear an LSU shirt, but that's okay. But
But
we
how
had a
quick,
great
since we're on
time.
the Tigers, and I didn't have a lot as guests, tell me real quick, you love sports, you know sports, tell me what you thought about their game.
The defense blew me away. But then again, knowing Dave Aranda, I was not surprised at what he's accomplished. He was missing a bunch of players. He just plugs in a couple other ones, and everything's fine.
3 starters suspended or
It was
injured.
unbelievable.
And still holds a team under 100 yards, and they don't get past midfield.
And I don't care what team it was.
Right.
Even though BYU seems to be struggling because I watched them the week before, I still didn't think we'd blow
First
them
of
out
all,
like
BYU was 9-4, and they've gone to 12 straight bowls, and there's 4 games they lost by a total of 8, so they don't suck.
that. No, I didn't say they sucked.
right.
I didn't say they sucked, but it was impressive. And people are talking about how the offense, they just running the ball more. They're still same old Tigers. No, it's not, man. You saw a bunch of different formations. They're not using half of what they're going to use during the season.
All right.
So I'm really fired up about that.
Let's talk food, because Fred and I
Right.
both love food.
Right.
Fred, we're going to talk a little about this segment they do on News with a Twist that just started last night. It premiered. However, we got tailgate season coming up.
This is perfect tailgate food.
So,
Kalamata muffalata.
what is that again?
Kalamata muffalata.
Kalamata Mufalata.
Say that 3
one more
times.
time.
Kalamata Mufalata. Kalamata Mufalata. Kalamata Mufalata.
You didn't
All right,
get it.
let's figure out. That's a cheese, correct?
No. What,
Oh, no,
what
this is this right here.
No, that's the mortadella.
I don't know what all
or
this is.
mortadella.
It was sport.
I
The
just know it
mortadella,
tastes good.
as
You
the
stick
Italians
with
say, the mortadella. But mortadella is
What's the canalata?
It sounds
the
like a lot of
Kalamata
talking that's
is
preventing
the
us from
Kalamata
eating.
Oh,
olives.
olives. I eat those a lot.
No, we
I-
put
the salami
black
gives us
we
some-
put Kalamata olives
get that.
in our olive salad.
Okay,
we make
that
ourselves.
makes it special.
And if anybody wants the recipe, you can go online and find it.
Tell
I'll
them
have it
where.
on there.
Tell them where.
At Scot, S-C-O-T,
Yeah, 1 T.
at katiesinmidcity.com.
K-A-T.
I think he's got a lower third for it right here if you want to check it out. But talk about how
Scott
easy,
with 1 T.
how easy this is.
It's really easy. I mean, anybody can do it. It's
Well,
simply
you got Fred
great.
up here. I don't know if anybody can do it. Me.
Well,
I meant
talk
me.
about
What
this
did I
show.
do to you?
myself
What did
into
I
it.
do? I never touched her. I told you that.
We talk about this show that Fred
said
and I
she
are
was
doing
16.
on WGNO.
Yep.
We're doing this show on News with a Twist.
Yeah.
And my initial thoughts about doing the show is I was going to get local personalities to come do the show with me.
Right.
But Fred and I started doing it.
I happen to
and-
be free on
and
Mondays, but okay.
Our chemistry on TV was
Look at
so
these
much
two.
fun.
Look at these.
I love
Oh,
this
wait,
guy
get the
so
camera
much.
in. Get the camera. Hold that,
breath.
hold that kiss.
Garlic.
Come on, camera.
Garlic.
Oh, they were hugging. Hug again.
Garlic.
Hug
Garlic.
again. Let the people. They were kissing.
Hug again. Let's do it again.
There you go.
Oh,
All right, enough.
But Fred and I, no, we've been friends for about 30 years. I've been following Cowboy Mouse since they started. I've traveled with them. I mean, it's just been,
We go way back.
we go way back.
I've heard it's the second greatest band ever behind
It is the second, to me, it's the second.
Yeah,
greatest.
see, I like that.
It is my second greatest.
gave
My
me a
second.
look.
It's my second favorite band behind Led Zeppelin, and Fred accepts.
But Led
that.
Zeppelin doesn't play that much
good.
anymore.
Right, yeah. So it's
My
the best
one,
right
my
now.
beautiful wife Stephanie also feels the same way.
Okay, I'm
we
good
love
with that.
Cowboy Mouse.
he had to
Anything
give
my
that
wife
plug.
says.
The Stephanie plug was
Oh
important.
man, Stephanie. Stephanie's.
She's the best.
Katie's wouldn't be there without
She's the
Stephanie.
best.
'Cause-
All right, let's digress.
Anyway,
Let's get
we'll
to
go
the
back
food.
to the muffalata.
Do it.
You got to use
Yeah.
really good muffalata bread.
That's the key.
I use Gendusa.
Okay.
Gendusa is the finest French bread. They're the original po' boy bread makers in the city, and they do a fabulous muffalata bread. So we're just gonna.
Can I ask you why
We're
you're
gonna
cutting
cut
it?
it.
Is this Gendusa related to the Little Gendusa's restaurant in Old Town Kenner? That's right, an Uptown boy knows the Kenner sometimes. Yeah, you're right, bro. Related?
You know how many Gendusas are in the city?
There's a few. Okay, never mind.
I got a nice.
Just gave
you
a
get a
plug to
nice
somebody.
even cut, and then you take your Kalamata. You take your Kalamata olive salad. So you have your little Kalamata.
By the way, I
olives
want
in
to
there.
say something while you're doing this.
You know?
Katie is, the restaurant Katie's and Scot is a proud sponsor of our good friend Eric Asher,
Yes.
who has a show on this station called Inside New Orleans Sports, and he also sponsors a radio show Inside New Orleans. Eric's one of our great friends, and y'all have had a relationship for a long time.
He is
Back
a
to this.
dear friend of mine. And that's where I get to talk sports every week, is on Wednesday at the restaurant. So anyway, I start with the olive salad, okay? You get the olive oil soaking in the bread. That's very, very important. Then I always start with the mortadella.
What are the white things inside? Looks like it has measles.
Fat.
That's fat. Okay.
And it's just like bologna, but it's got fat in it, and it's got
We got
pistachio
2 minutes,
in
so
it.
let's do it.
Got pistachio in it. And then, there we go. We start with that. We'll throw another one on there for the heck of it.
This looks like really good ham, though.
That is very good ham. That's just Acey's ham.
I'm about to say it. I didn't want to give a plug without
It's the
saying it.
best. And then you layer it with some high quality Genoa salami.
Love it.
While you're doing this, can we talk about some
Salami.
of those amazing dishes that you cook at Katie's? Because I have these
man.
oyster
Oyster
pictures.
Schlesinger.
Yeah, is this right here? What is this right here?
Oysters, that's a half and half. That's Oyster Schlesinger, named after our coach.
God,
Schlesinger.
Slush, you're getting a lot of love on this
He
show.
gets a lot of love. 'cause
Keep
he's
showing
awesome
these
guy.
pictures so people
And
know.
that's our seafood platter.
Nice,
No-
nice.
no-
It's very
no
high, I
one person
noticed.
can put that away. Oh yeah.
Yep, keep going.
It's
Look
a
at that.
mile-high
What is this
seafood
pizza?
platter.
I'm like,
That's the
look at that.
Boudreaux pizza that Guy Fieri featured on Diners,
Look how we
Drive-Ins, and
tied this all
Dives.
in without knowing we're doing it.
I
Notice
am
how
also a
worlds are
big fan of
colliding
Guy
here.
Fieri. That
Soft-shell
is the
crab?
soft-shell crab over fresh redfish and asparagus with a little seafood cream sauce.
Wow. And what about some
And then I'm
shots at
gonna
Katie's,
finish
the
this
restaurant in Mid-City, because it
With
is
the Giuseppe ham.
that's some indoor shots. It's your neighborhood place with the gourmet food. That's a rarity.
Obviously,
Yeah,
it was closed that day because the place is usually packed.
I gotta
look
tell
at
you,
it. Look at that.
Absolutely.
Look at this skinny
How
guy.
handsome
Yeah,
you
know
are.
what? That
All right,
kills me.
and
I
then
put
the
it on
outdoor
handsome.
shots I love at this place. I feel like I'm doing a plug for you, but that's okay.
It's all right. It's okay. It's worth it.
Look at this. This is one of the great places and great. Real quick, keep going. Why you
I
two?
totally love what I do, man. I was supposed to go to law school, and I'm certainly glad I didn't do that. I'm finishing the sandwich here with Provel cheese.
And that's
Provel
St. Louis
cheese is a St. Louis
Yes, it
cheese.
is. I'm learning
You
that
can
today.
use mozzarella.
Traitor!
provolone. This is my twist on it. Other than the calamatas, this is my twist. I use Provel
That's
cheese.
your news with a twist.
That's my news with a
All right.
twist.
All right,
So then you would put it in the oven. Now, it's important. You got to get the cheese melted and you want the bread crispy. But it's very important that you don't cook the meat all the way through.
can't do it all the way through.
No, I like the meat to be
Right.
cool in the center or it'll get too greasy.
Right, yes.
So you want the meat cool in the center and the cheese melted. That is the way I do.
And
my
if y'all
Katie's
want to come
muffalata.
down here,
come to Katie's.
right? No, come
Oh, you
come
can
here
come
right
right
now.
next
It's a
Studio
live
right
show.
here.
Actually,
We got
actually,
We've got tons of stuff.
Secrets of TV. Actually, it's a
plenty.
tape show, so it's too late. But go to Katie's and get one of these. I want to thank.
I got to tell you that. I'm hungry.
Take
Yeah,
that bite.
get
Show
up.
the bite. Show the bite. Nice. The crew is going to be happy. I've got to close the show out. Fred LeBlanc. I guess we'll say that's y'all's right, my left. And of course, Scott Craig. I want to thank Alvin, Gentry, and Mike Triplett. It's been a fun show. Hey, New Orleans, it's football season. We're going to have some fun. I want to thank everybody from CST and WLE. We'll see you next week on Primetime Sports. Although our name is Lucy's Retired Surfers Bar and Restaurant, there's nothing tired or retired about anything we do. Meet Me at Lucy's has been our slogan and battle cry for nearly 3 decades in New Orleans. Located in the heart of the Warehouse District, Lucy's has truly been the destination spot for nearly every occasion. Whether it's happy hour after work, before and after Saints and Pelicans games, or just a delicious bite to eat at all hours, Lucy's is the perfect place to meet up, hang out, and unwind for a great time. And while you're there, you should try one of our signature surfing cocktails, like the Shark Attack or Blue Whale. And for the truly courageous, our famous Scorpion Tequila Shot. Remember, Meet Me at Lucy's is our slogan, but don't forget to bring your favorite pooch, because our lifeguard chair is always open.